there's a lot of cars going on outside my window, so I hope not too much of that background noise gets into this. But we have another. I mean, I say this every time when we do a solo episode, but this is going to be a quick solo episode because, well, first off, I have like this sore on my tongue, so talking is there's a slight pain to it, unless I kind of contort in a weird way. So hopefully I don't damage anything too much. But yeah, it's the holiday time of the year, so we actually had an episode lined up for this week, but as things got a little canceled and whatnot, the guest couldn't make it. So and then the other guest who I was going to have on for another episode can't do it for a couple more days, so we don't really have anything for the episode for this week. So now you're getting this. Again, it's going to be very short because I don't really have much to say. And again, usually I don't. I don't have any random like stove anecdotes or anything that I usually get on about. It's the new year. We do plan on still doing these episodes every week. We haven't missed an episode in a long time. I mean, even then, we went to like every other week for one summer, I think, and we might end up going to every other week at some point just because of busy schedules and such. It's hard to get people to do things now, and but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Um, so I think at this point, what we're gonna talk about today, it's kind of the new year. So I'm reading a thing about that. Okay. It's the new year. We might be talking about some stuff. I have this. I pulled up this. I was trying to look up something online. And the article is basically really bad New Year's resolutions because it's the new year. People are thinking about New Year's resolutions. So I wanted to just talk through this article. It's on Forbes if you want to look it up. Um, and basically, yeah, we're gonna run through this list pretty quickly. Again, I don't have much to say about these, but it's more just to make fun of people that make. I mean, look, you're feel free to make your resolution. People like to do it. It's a thing that happens. Um, and if it makes you a better person for it, then that's great. But the point that I guess the overall point, I guess, before we get into this list, is a lot of it is sort of it's sort of just what would be the phrase, like resolution theater. It makes you feel better, but it's not really actually any. Do you actually make yourself better? So like here, the first one on this list for New Year's resolution: set goals. That's the resolution. Set goals, which is just like, what does that even mean? Your goal, your resolution is to set a resolution. Like that's basically what you're saying. It doesn't make any sense. So I'm like, yeah, like you got to be specific with these things, right? That's the other thing. You have to have a very specific goal, not just to set goals in general or just a generic like the next one on this list is be better, be a better person, be good. Like what does that mean, right? It needs to have you need to have actionable items. What are you actually going to accomplish? You need to have the result in mind, the specific result that you can say that you did, or maybe did not do. Maybe obviously you don't have to do everything, right? It's you're creating your own rules. That's the kind of how the system works. But you at least need to create those rules in the first place. So that was number 9. Number 8 here is improve your health or eat better. And this is another vague thing, right? What does that mean? Like eating better. Okay, eating better, improving your health, obviously are great things. But like, how are you going to accomplish this, right? A lot of resolutions forget to acknowledge the how part of the question, right? They just go for the what, or what do you want to accomplish, big picture at the end. But you can't look at it that way. You can't have a big picture. You need to be detail oriented and think about how you're going to accomplish that. How are you going to eat better? Are you going to cut out certain foods? Are you going to reduce overall food consumption? Are you going to exercise more? Is that for your improving health? Like what are you going to do? The next one on this list is get a significant other or get married. Now this is an interesting one, right? You think like, oh, that is specific, right? You have an actionable item that you can have. You can measure your results, right? We keep talking about the measurability of. Is that a word? Measurability. Measureness is a word. I don't know. Whatever, we talk about how well you can measure your resolution by the end of the year. This seems like pretty specific, and it is. The problem is you're relying on someone else to fulfill that, right? And I think the whole point of resolutions is it needs to be something that you can do, right? This is an internal thing. It's something that you do by yourself. If you can have you can have group oriented or multiple people oriented goals, but they need to be in on it too, right? Like the problem with getting a significant other or even getting married is you need the consent of the other individual to accomplish that. It's not like you can go with like I said, you can do a group oriented thing. Like you can say you want to like going back to the previous example, like eating better. If you make a better, but you could say with your friend, hey, let's eat better. Let's reduce our fast food to, instead of we normally do 3 times a week, let's go to 1 times a week, something like that. And you can do it with your friend, right? And you can measure whether you accomplish this goal, whether your friend accomplishes this goal, and at the end of the year by that. But the getting married or getting a significant other, you can't go up to someone and say, hey, I'd like you to be my significant other by the end of the year. Let's make sure we accomplish that. I mean, I guess you could do that, but I don't know if that's really a resolution. The next one here, it's basically about things that are unattainable, right? Become an Olympic gold medalist. Become a superhero. Anything that's not attainable. It needs to be something, again, we talk about being able to measure your results by the end of the next year. And if you're already setting goals that are completely unrealistic for you, then you're already one step behind, right? You need to set something that you can not easily, it needs to have you need to be challenged, but it needs to be something within your reach. So that was number 6. Here we go. So number 5 is like be like, or have a body like a celebrity, right? And this is completely. I mean, so this has a number of issues, right? First of all, just be yourself, right? Don't worry about being like a celebrity, right? You should be the best version of you. You shouldn't try to tailor your body or your personality or anything else based on other people, right? I'm not telling you never think about what other people think of you, but in this case, who you are should be defined by, well, who you are, not who you want to be like necessarily. And then the other thing is trying to measure up to these celebrities, especially in the digital age now. You're never going to look like these people. They got, with all the makeup, and, if you're talking about like, oh, you like this movie star you saw in a movie, they have this like, besides like you have CGI, we can use, in the Photoshop, you can use all of that in movies and everything else, on magazine covers, if magazines are even still a thing. Those are all completely edited photos and everything else. So that's not, again, we talk about realistic goals too. That's not very realistic. The next one, this one says join a gym or get exercise equipment. And that's, again, not too bad on itself. The problem is like, I think there's been studies. Maybe someone in the comments can talk about this, but does joining a gym incentivize you to go to the gym, right? Joining a gym, obviously you need to pay money to join the gym, and that should, I would think in theory, incentivize you to go to the gym. I think what the problem, and I'm trying to see what they're saying here, the problem is, the problem is, I guess, especially for new gym memberships in January, people don't tend, I guess what the research is saying is people don't tend to follow through, right? I mean, you think colloquially this makes sense, right? People will go to the gym maybe the first couple days of the first week of January, and then they tailor off as they, settle back into their normal life. Again, this comes back to like actionable items, right? You need to basically force yourself to continue to go to that gym, because that initial incentive of paying money for that membership I guess is not enough unless it's a ridiculous membership, right? There's some gyms that cost $15 a month. There's some that cost over 100 a month. So maybe that really expensive one would further incentivize you, but depending on your not just willingness to pay, but ability to pay, perhaps that's not enough. So I guess that's the biggest problem. Again, that's not as egregious as some of these other ones that are ridiculous, but I can see why it's very problematic. The next one is, yeah, so do some extreme or crash diet or any other kind of drastic behavior. So this, again, this doesn't really fall into the category of do something with results, right? Because you would have an easy result to see. The problem is you need to do something that's safe, right? Obviously, people are very self-conscious in general, I think, and they want to be better, whether it's internally or externally. And in this case, doing an extreme diet or any kind of extreme behavior, anything that's drastic, you need to consider what's safe, right? Again, a diet in general is not a terrible idea, right? Again, as long as you're very specific about it, but doing something like I'll only eat once a week, like something crazy like that. I will say, like, the intermittent fasting apparently is a thing. I don't know if that's considered extreme, because apparently it does work, and I know it's fairly mainstream at this point. But maybe something more than that, like I said, like eating once a week or anything else extreme. I'm only gonna eat coconuts, or, whatever else it would be. I don't know why that came up in my mind, but that's what happened. So again, just be safe. And, okay, here's the last one. And this article is from like 2022, so this is from a while ago. It's on Forbes if you're curious what I'm reading through. But and we've already gone again. I always say these are not going to be long episodes, and then I always go longer than I think I'm going to go. I was like, that's going to be like a 5 to 10 minute episode. No, we're still rolling. But the last one here is anything you resolved to do in previous years, which is incredible. That's actually just hilarious. My New Year's resolution is to do the same thing that I said I was going to do last year. Look, there's multiple problems with that. It's sort of like that the cliche insanity definition of doing something over and over again, and expecting a different result. But the problem here is I guess that is the problem. is like, if you couldn't do it last year, then either it wasn't attainable enough, it had any of the problems that we've already discussed through the first set of resolutions, or I guess you just weren't driven enough to do it. I don't know. It was too hard, or you didn't want to do it enough. A person in my life, I won't name who this person is, but they're never gonna listen to this. But basically, they would always say your priorities are what you do, not what you say they are, right? And that's sort of the overall recap of this New Year's resolution segment, which is the whole show, I guess, is that your priorities are what you do and not what you say they are. Right? If you go up and you say, I really want to focus on this, but you don't do it at all, it clearly wasn't a priority for you. So don't tell people it's a priority for me to, buy more sweatshirts this year. I'm just like looking around the room trying to think of an example. If you're not actually going to do it, then clearly it wasn't a priority for you, right? So that's kind of the key takeaway here is if you actually consider these things are important to you, actually do them, right? Or maybe just people are lazy. That's also just a reasonable explanation for all this. So that's the segment, and I think that's where the show's going to end. I can't keep dragging this out longer. We could try to stretch it to 20 minutes, so it's almost like a reasonable episode. But I kind of like, sometimes you need these little short snippet solo episodes where I can just kind of talk about nothing. And I think the last one I did, a lot of people enjoyed that one. There was a lot of engagement on that episode. I don't know how or why or what happened there, but there was actually a lot of engagement on my last episode. So maybe this one will catch. See, maybe you guys are looking for more solo content. I personally do not like doing these. I'll do them just because I want to give you guys something, and you know, it's not hard for me to do this, obviously, and it's a priority, as, as I'll say. I do them, right? I don't say I want to make podcast episodes every week. I actually follow through, and I want to follow through on that. And I don't know. Sometimes I catch on, and there's something interesting I can talk about. The last couple of these solo episodes, there just really hasn't. It's just kind of that time of year where there really isn't much for me to say. I was thinking about doing like a sports one, like an NFL one. Maybe we'll do a solo baseball one in the spring. But you guys have to give me okay. So basically, this week I was thinking, oh, we could do like a playoff predictor. But the problem is we still have one more week left in the regular season to do that, so it's not really a great time. If those are wondering when is Nathaniel coming on, I've been in contact with him. He's in law school, as I'm sure if you're an avid listener, you know. But I'm hoping we can get him back on soon. You know what? I'll send him another message after this and see if he can, if he wants to do a football episode, because we haven't done one of those in a while, and I think those do pretty well. So that's the show this week. Again, leave your comments if you enjoyed this, or who you want on this show. If you want specific guests, if you want to come on, if you're a listener and you're like, you know what, I could do so much better than these jerks, you're probably right, you know. But I'll just tease it. Next episode, we should have some closure on another guest, or not another guest, but one of our guest propositions. So hopefully you'll hear about that in next week's episode. Of course, for all I know, they're going to cancel, and then you won't even get that closure. But don't worry, you'll hear. So that's a little tease. And thank you for listening this time.